AD carry is the hardest role in the game to play, no question, because if you make one mistake you are going to hit the deck, and even if you do play close to perfectly, there is still a good chance you end up losing because your whole team is feeding. But so many AD carry mains lack the fundamentals the best AD carries in the world possess, so before flaming and blaming others, it is vital that we ourselves improve as much as we can. So in today's video, I'm going to reveal 10 Challenger ADC tips and ideas that are going to help you too. Improve your mechanics so you never misclick again, improve your movement and positioning so you never get caught again, and improve your vision and perspective so you can make the best decisions possible. Now this all sounds amazing, and it is, but what's even more amazing is the content on our GameWeep website at the moment, because our Challenger players and coaches are uploading close to 20 videos a week for our subs, and these are original, fresh, relevant to the meta, and will 100% help you to maximize your potential in the Rift. So get signed up for that exclusive access, links in the description and comment section, and let's get into the video. Now we're going to start by talking about some mechanics and settings that you have to know about if you're going to become one of the best AD carries in the world. And all of these massive setting tricks I'm about to show you require us to turn on our player attack move. So simply head to settings and then your hotkeys, scroll down to player movement, open this up, and then where it says player attack move, assign one of your keys to this. For most of us, if not all of us, this will be our A key. So the first thing I'm going to show you here is this little trick. So in your settings and then interface, click on show attack range. Now the reason why I want all of you to do this is because this circle that appears when you press your A key, this is your attack range, and this changes depending on the AD carry you're actually playing. For example, when you play Caitlyn, this circle is going to be bigger than when you play a champion like Vayne. But here's the thing, lots of AD carries, even though they might be playing Caitlyn, will play the same range as if they were playing Vayne just because they're not visualizing this circle around their champion. And this is so important because when you're playing a champion like Caitlyn, who has the biggest auto attack range in the game, you have access to more things on the map. And when you're auto attacking an enemy champion who doesn't have the range you have, because their circle is going to be smaller, they cannot retaliate and do anything about it. So the tip here is to play with this attack range turned on until you get familiar with it. Now this next setting is honestly one of my favorite settings in the game, and it revolves around the type of cursor you're using. Now just hear me out on this. So if you're using the legacy cursor, I want all of you to change to using the updated cursor. So simply untick this in your interface setting. So now we have the more recent pointer cursor. So when I press my A key here with the updated cursor, you can see that the cursor changes to this little circle. Now the best AD carries in the world use this cursor because it is just more precise than the old one. So with the old cursor, you can see that you would have this diamond kite shaped little marker. And for whatever reason, I don't know why it is, but the new and updated one with the circle is just way more accurate and easier to use. The number of students I've showed this to, and then they actually try it out, they cannot believe how much easier it is to actually just play AD carry and hit the things that you want to hit. So turn off the legacy cursor, make sure that you have player attack move click assigned to your A key, and try this out in a practice tool, and you can let me know in the comments just how much better this is. Now the next tip I'm going to give you is all about your camera settings. Now I'm encouraging all of you to play with unlocked camera. Now the reason for this is because when you're playing at range as an AD carry, well hopefully you are anyway, you need to be able to see as much as possible on the Rift, because there are so many abilities in the game that can fly at you from all different types of angles. So a Malphite, for example, if he flashes and then ults, is actually quite hard to react to unless you can actually see the Malphite before he even does this. But lots of players in lower elos, because they play unlocked camera, they limit their scope of vision. We want to open the map up as much as possible so we can see these cooldowns coming at us and the plays that the enemy champions want to make. So unlocked camera, what it essentially does is it gives you foresight and the ability to anticipate what is going to happen in the future. So this will make you die a lot less. Now the fourth tip idea I want to give you in regards to your mechanics, this is actually a drill or practice routine you can do that is going to help you get your fingers warm and just improve your overall mechanics and clicking and auto attack moving, all of this stuff. So what we're going to do, we're going to set up 4 dummies in the mid lane and a practice tool. And then what we're going to do, we're going to walk from the top side of these dummies from this ward to this ward. And then once we've done this a few times, we're then going to go below the dummies and do exactly the same thing. Now while we're doing this, we're going to auto attack each dummy just once, but the goal here is to keep the dummy you're auto attacking close to the middle of your screen. This is actually going to force you to get used to unlocked camera because you have to move your screen to be able to see the dummies. So we can go up and down this however many times you want until you get comfortable with the attack range, the new cursor, and then the unlocked camera, which we have talked about. But that's all well and good. What about when we actually get into the laning phase? What are the important ideas we need to be thinking about? Well, first of all, positioning and spacing. These are intertwined and, to be honest, are up there with the most important concepts for AD carries. Now, I've got 2 tips for you here that are going to change the way you play the game, and the first tip is the diagonal line. Now, I have talked about this theory in other videos, but I haven't mentioned it for a while, so let's revisit this here. Now, the key detail here when we're thinking about the diagonal line theory is the enemy support, because in pretty much every game they are going to be the major threat. Even if it's a Soraka, her poke and harass with her Q is really annoying, so we don't want to be near this. Whether it's a Blitzcrank pull or a Morgana Q or a Nautilus Q, whatever it is the enemy support has, it is a threat. So what we do, depending on where the enemy support is standing, we stand diagonally opposite that threat in the lane. And if you cast your minds back to your math teacher telling you that diagonal lines are longer than straight lines, this means that we keep the maximum distance from that threat. So in other words, you are going to be safer and dodge more skill shots. This is crucial. And the second tip regarding your positioning and spacing is called isolation. And this idea is all about isolating the primary target on the enemy team. Because way too many AD carries and lower elos, they'll try to take on 3 players at the same time. Now this can work if you're uber fed, but 99% of the time, all you want to be doing is keeping one enemy champion in your auto attack range circle. The more enemy champions you have in the circle, the more dangers there are, and it's going to be very hard to manage all of these. If we just have one enemy champion in this circle, how easy is this? So in terms of where you're moving while you're fighting, you always want to be picturing this circle and trying to keep just one enemy champion inside of this. This makes them the primary target, and this won't open yourself up to other sources of damage. Now in terms of the rest of the laning phase, I'm going to give you 3 more tips that are going to help you improve your game tenfold. Now the first of these is counting cooldowns, and I don't care what role you're playing, what lane you're in, this is one of the most important facets of the game. Being able to see your opponent's HUD, so their cooldowns at the bottom of their screen, even though you can't, because obviously you'll have yours at the bottom. But this is so crucial. A Blitzcrank without his hook is no longer a scary Blitzcrank. A Vayne without a Condemn is a very accessible Vayne. A Varus without his ultimate is a very killable Varus. So hopefully you get the point here, and what you can even do in your games is to actually call out the enemy bot lane's cooldowns. So as soon as Blitzcrank uses his Q, his pull, call this out. Say Blitzcrank no Q. And all of a sudden, because the dynamic of the lane has changed, just because the enemy champions have used their cooldowns, we can play differently and try to exploit their weaknesses. Now the next tip revolves around coordination, and it's not just about coordinating with your support in regards to targeting the same champion. I think that goes without saying. For example, if your Leona jumps on the enemy AD carry, you always want to be focusing the same target. But what's also crucial here in terms of this coordination idea is being on the same page as your support. But so many AD carries, even in Master and Grandmaster who I've coached, they do not communicate their ideas. Your support is an extension of yourself. So if they're not going to stand in the right position, if they're going to run it down and feed, it's really your fault because you're not telling them what you want to do in the lane. Even if it's something as simple as shoving a minion wave. If your support is right next to you, ask for help with the wave. You can even type shove in the chat and hopefully they will help you out. Now sometimes of course they won't, but you want to be doing everything you can to get your support to help make you as efficient as possible. And this idea of efficiency, so we're not wasting more time than we have to, relates to the last tip during the laning phase, and this is about recalling ASAP. So the 2 key details here about recalling, the first one is your gold value, and the second one is the enemy champion. So in terms of your gold value, what I'm talking about here is what that number actually represents. So as an AD carry, for example, if you started with a longsword, you will know that Noon Quiver is 950 gold. Now as soon as you hit this massive gold value, you really want to be trying to base as soon as possible. So this means that you're not going to overextend and hit the enemy tower for tower plates, because that gold is pretty much redundant. We already have a Noon Quiver. Why not just base and get back in lane so we can use this massive spike as much as we can? But what's also important here is the enemy champions. So you might be sitting on Noon Quiver gold, for example, but what about if the enemy AD carry and support are both 100 HP trying to farm under their tower? Well, in that case, because you have a significant advantage in terms of HP, you really want to be staying and only timing your base when the enemy champions actually base. Otherwise, you are just letting them off the hook. So the huge point here is to know your gold values. What does that number represent in terms of items? By knowing these off by heart, you are going to optimize your back timings and waste less time on the rift. This is also what is known as tempo, and this is something that separates the challenger AD carries to everyone else. Now the 10th tip of the video is no less important than the others, and this is in regards to your CSing, and the tip here that's going to help you improve your CS is tapping S. Now this S key, by default anyway, is the stop key, and what this does when you tap S is it stops your champion from doing anything. Even if you inputted an auto attack command, by tapping S, it will completely stop what your character is doing. Now why is this so good for your CSing? Well, what it does, I actually like to think of this this key is the stabilize key. So what it does is it locks your character in place and just makes everything seem so much slower, because most AD carries will be clicking all over the place trying to be like Uzi, when really you don't have to. Even Uzi sometimes is going to tap the S key because it calms everything down. It allows you to fully focus on the minions, and by tapping S as well, you can then move your cursor on top of the minion you want to last hit, so it gives you even more time. Whereas if we're clicking back and forth and then we have to flick our mouse ever so fast to the minion that's about to die, we are going to miss vital gold just because we're clicking way too much. So when you don't have to and when it's safe to do so, tapping the S key is going to allow you to accumulate more CS in your games. And those were the top 10 AD carry tips for Season 12, guys. If you did enjoy the video, if you found it informative and useful, let us know by leaving a like down below, and also make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of our future daily uploads. And until tomorrow's daily upload, this has been the Jizzle.